are so excited that you've joined us for the last Lipedema Patient Roundtable of 2020. I know a lot of us are like, 2020, don't let the door hit you. But we actually have made some wonderful memories throughout this past year, and we've been able to raise awareness to the cause of lipedema. And the reason why it's been so wonderful is because of all of these fabulous ladies who have participated every month, and all of you at home. And I see you logging in right now and logging on. You, instead of watching the Hallmark Channel tonight, decided what could be more festive than the Lipedema Patient Roundtable. And some of us have very special outfits on, and I have got to go to you first, Pattie Cornute. I couldn't quite read what your little hat said, so please explain for us.
They're all kettlebells, and my hat says bells will be swinging.
I want to break into song.
Little tiny kettlebells. All on.
I love it. We totally think that you're pretty awesome. Hello, Carol Moody from St. Louis. We say hello back to you. Kim Wilson's out there. Pattie, how appropriate. For those of you who don't know, Pattie Cornute, one of our panelists, runs the @Lipedema Fitness Facebook and Instagram pages. She's got a great website. And of course, if you're going to talk fitness, have kettlebells around your neck. You're so creative. Marsha Witt's out there. Hi, it's so great to see you tonight. Pale Ginger Pear, once again, you slayed with your outfit. Please share with us.
So it is a partridge in a pale ginger pear tree.
I mean, really, drop the microphone. We applaud the creativity on the panel. And of course, now Linda Ann Kahn is with us as well. And Linda, you celebrate Hanukkah, but you still got in the spirit.
That's right. I was going to put up Hanukkah things, but I put up reindeers. So we'll be in the spirit with all you lovely ladies.
Absolutely. And I am remiss. I mean, the original idea was Pattie Cornute's, and she said, wear a Christmas ugly sweater. But I'm like, I live in Florida. I'm not buying a sweater. But Siouxsie, you showed me up because you live in Florida. You've got an even better hat and an ugly Christmas sweater.
And I did. I bought an ugly Christmas sweater.
But you look cute in the ugly sweater, so I don't know how you do that. Cheryl Scoledge runs Lipedema and Food Sensitivities, and your Facebook group is so active and so wonderful, but we never know what your backdrop is going to be every month. It's different. How do you do this?
It's just really a setting in Zoom. And so you can change your virtual background and you can choose any photograph that you want. So it's very easy to put something together in Canva and just find a photograph and throw it on up there.
Well, you know, you're always a very well-dressed backdrop. And then Lippy Butterfly. Lippy Butterfly, Angelique Charles, we are so glad you're here tonight. You have a Santa apron.
Yes. I was running a little behind on my shopping and the ugly sweaters were gone. So I went with the practical apron that I'll be using for my nutritious meals going forward.
I love it. It looks great. You are wonderful as always. And we are so delighted to welcome a new panelist, a special guest panelist this evening, Debby Pelletier. It's so nice to have you here. And your dog, would you like to introduce us?
I am the Vibe Machine Lady, and I'm really thanking everyone here, with maybe the exception of Pattie. I've spent a bit of quality time with either speaking, getting Facebook lessons from Cheryl. I was on the phone with Kim Wilson. That's why I was late for the call, because I was checking in on her booty. Oh. And there's just, I advocate as much as I shake. So I appreciate being a part of this group. There's so much common sharing and wealth of information, and much like, you know, the mom that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm very much self-taught. I've known Linda probably longer than anyone, and she knows how crazy I am, but there's so many things in this community that are self-exploration, self-discovery, trial and error, and yeah, self-diagnosis. Like I'm still on the phone. Oh, do you have big pads behind the back of your knees? You might have lipedema. Have you ever heard of this? Like you can't help yourself once you know. So yeah. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm starting some new initiatives, which I'll maybe get into. I'm trying to streamline myself as a resource as I get busier.
Wonderful. Well, we are happy to share your information with the group because this is all about uplifting the lipedema community. We genuinely care about you. Lympha Press is the sponsor of these monthly roundtables. We're the makers of the Optimal Plus, which is the only pneumatic compression device that is cleared by the FDA for the treatment of lipedema in the United States. So I always talk about that. I see some of my friends out there who just texted me, my Optimal Plus shipped this week. I'm so excited for you. I see my new friend Sue Hunt out there. April Sluter has a great Facebook page. This is just awesome stuff, but we want to get right into it. And we do know that Dr. Herbst has intended to join us tonight. She may have been detained. In the meantime, we have so much that we have to talk about. So I want to get right around to our number one question that we start every month out with, which is, what is the most interesting thing that you learned since last month about lipedema? And Siouxsie, I'm going to start with you.
I've been obsessing over inflammation, and specifically lymphatic drainage, because when I'm inflamed, that's when I swell and that's when everything hurts. And if it doesn't hurt, then I'm usually not inflamed. So I've been kind of obsessing over that. But this month I learned how to do a really fast and easy lymphatic drainage on my face, which was kind of awesome. And I shared the before and after on that. It was a particularly intense weekend for me with a lot of activities, and I just didn't physically handle it well, bad foods and all kinds of stuff. But one thing I learned about inflammation that I do want to share that I thought was amazing is the oils in your diet matter. And I was really shocked to actually discover, I don't want to get into it, but I did something really crazy diet-wise, having to do with croissants. Don't ask. Anyway, there was a lot of croissants involved, might have been involved. But the funny thing is I didn't experience any inflammation while this experiment was happening. But then I had something else that had wheat in it, but also was cooked in canola oil at a restaurant. And I ended up so inflamed. And it was like this much wheat compared to croissants. And only the American croissants that are actually made with butter. I mean, the French croissants made with butter, not the American ones made with margarine. Anyway.
Very interesting. Okay, you do have me sort of thinking about croissants now and a little bit hungry for carbohydrates. But did you want to add anything to what she just said, Cheryl? Because food sensitivities is your expertise. And then you can also tell us what you learned this last month.
Sure. Well, one thing possibly, Siouxsie, and we can talk a little bit more about it, is maybe the difference between omega-6 and omega-3 oils. So that might be something that's going on there. So just the thought.
That's exactly the rabbit hole I ended up on. I love that you brought that up.
Yep. And it's kind of funny because I also had some lymphatic drainage learnings this month. So I had a very swollen, painful lymph node on my clavicle. So, usually, your lymph nodes in your throat when you have a sore throat or something, but this one is actually right here on my clavicle. And so, it's in an unusual place. I wasn't feeling very well. And so one of the things that I realized over the month is I had to kind of back away and kind of heal. So I couldn't really do a lot of the lymph drainage things to impact that node anymore, because every night it was swelling, and in the morning I try to work to get it down. So I was doing just the drainage from that node out, right? So just doing the little shake of the shoulders and trying to do a pumping of the clavicle here, just to try to help that to drain. But I didn't want to do any lymphatic drainage anywhere else in the body to impact that node further. So that was kind of a interesting thing for me this month.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. So Linda, I know that when you hear things like this, you probably are nodding your head and saying, I know all about this. Anything you want to add to what Cheryl just said? And then we're interested in learning what you learned this last month.
Well, yeah, the omega-6 fatty acids, the safflower oil, the sunflower oil, the canola oil, those are all pro-inflammatory. And most people have too many of the omega-6. It's supposed to be 2 to 1, 2 omega-6 to omega-3, but most people in this diet have 24 sometimes to 1. So those can be really inflammatory. And then I've got a new way of hugging people and saying hello, because we can't hug. So I go onto the clavicle and I just hug and I do a little massage like that. And that's my hug for people. So that's the new one that you can do. And then you're massaging that clavicle at the same time. But the thing that
these are your clients that you're doing this to.
Oh yeah, because I can't hug.
I mean, I don't want you doing this to strangers. Folks, don't try this at home.
So when I say goodbye or say hello, we just hugging, right?
For those who don't know you, Linda, please, can you give us the Reader's Digest version of your practice and what you do, just so people aren't thinking, why is this woman going around touching people's clavicle?
Well, I'm a very, very passionate practitioner, especially for lipedema, because I have lipedema myself. In fact, Dr. Herbst just felt my legs the other day and I went, oh, it's sore. So I practice in San Diego. I have a clinic. I specialize in lipedema and lymphedema, and I also work with Lyme disease and lymphedema. But I've been practicing for over 25 years, and I'm co-author of the nutrition book, Nutrition Guide, Lymphedema and Lipedema. And I'm also on the committee for the standard of care for lipedema, and soon to be the international consensus.
Yes, we love that. We're so proud to have you as part of our panel, and you bring such joy and such spirit to our conversations as well. So knowing her expertise, feel free to jump in and put some questions in chat. We'd love to answer them live here. And Pale Ginger Pear, I've been inspired by your photos. You had a photo shoot recently this last month, and I'm jealous of all the clothes you got to wear, and you just look absolutely beautiful. But you know, you are inside and out. So what's the most important thing you learned this last month?
I learned that this whole process of this surgery journey that I'm going on is actually allowing my body to reset itself and work properly. I posted a picture the other day, before and after, just from July to like 2 days ago, of my top half that was drastically different. And we haven't even worked above my hips yet. And like, I didn't really realize how different it was. I would notice, I'd be like sitting at home and my like baggy t-shirts were baggier, that like I had to watch that I wasn't flashing anybody, but like, I didn't realize how drastic it actually really was until I took a comparison photo, and I'm baffled by it.
While these women have so graciously and generously made themselves public voices for lipedema, they try it's challenging sometimes, let's put it that way, to separate your personal life from this public persona. And I just really applaud all of you for opening yourselves up. But also, if you send a personal friend request to someone's personal page, they may not accept it. It's not because they don't like you or even love you, but we're trying to keep their lipedema persona separate from their personal lives. Did I say that appropriately, Pale Ginger Pear?
Yeah, I did recently just start a Facebook profile, Cara the Pale Ginger Pear, because I was getting a ton of requests on my personal page, which I feel bad not adding everybody, because I do want to chat, I want to help, I want to answer questions, but it's become 24/7. And this condition already takes so much control over our lives. Like, I need a moment where I can log into Facebook and it's just stupid memes and not, again, oh, I can't walk, my leg. And like, I get it, I feel the pain, but it can also mentally bring you down, where you hear so many people suffering all the time. So I've kind of separated. Plus, I do have a 12-year-old son that doesn't want to be known and doesn't really want to be out there, because I mean, he's 12 and they're in that awkward stage, and so I need a spot where I can still show him to family and friends and not have to like flag each post to hide people. So I've separated. So some of you, if we were friends and I deleted you, it's because I've added you on the other profile. And
absolutely. And I have a boatload of people wanting to follow me on Facebook. Believe me, I got nothing on my personal Facebook page that you're interested in except for what I had for dinner last night. But if you go to Medical Solution Supplier or Lympha Press, everything lipedema related is there, and we would love to engage with you there. We're so glad you're here tonight. Patrice White, you're out there. It's so nice to see you. Nita Cluis, you are such a wonderful friend and supporter of the cause of lipedema. Marcia Witt, wonderful to see you again. And Maria Kennemer, that's a new name. We're so glad to welcome you here. If I don't mention you by name, we're just still so delighted that you have joined us this evening. We are talking, if you just tuned in, about the biggest thing we learned this last month. Okay, Lippy Butterfly, you're on.
This month, some of the things I just didn't really want to do. So I had been using my massage gun, but I hadn't necessarily been staying up on my MLD and things like that closer to the end of the month. But I started to develop like some hardened and painful lymph nodes in the thigh area. And I noticed that I just needed to do both. I noticed that you can't rely on one modality to carry you through. You kind of have to have a system that continually goes. And the more that you build those habits into your life just to do the entire system for your body, the better it'll be for you.
Do you have any idea how much I can't wait for you to get your Lympha Press?
I can't wait either. I honestly am excited about this Lympha Press, especially after watching the lymphedema roundtable from last week and realizing how easy it was to get into from some of the other patients. One of the guys even mentioned needing another person. And I'm like, that's me. I'm the poster child for needing another person. I can't wait for that opportunity to turn around and tell my friend, I don't need you for this part.
Yes, 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 yes. And anybody who is interested in getting assistance with that, please direct message me, bviola@medsoulsupplier.com. We will get you taken care of well. Pattie Cornute, what did you learn this last month?
For me, it was not so much learning something new. It was remembering that this time of the year is kind of stressful and it just seems a bit overwhelming at times, you know? And so it was taking a step back and being okay to have rest days, being okay to say I need a mental health day, and realizing that all that added stress is a big trigger for me personally. And I really had to just be okay with taking more rest days.
That is so good, because we see all of your work days online and we see you with your kettlebells and your workouts, and that balance of knowing when you need to rest as well is so important. I just love that. And I love how you shepherd your followers in such a very real way. Pattie, you're awesome. I'm so glad that you are part of this panel. Now, Debby Pelletier, which I know how to say your last name this month. Instead of last month, I'm interested to know what you learned last month. And then I have a question from our audience for you. So take it away, Debby.
It might seem like a silly thing, but just when I thought I had gotten to the edge of the lipedema community, it got bigger. And it's been a very interesting, I worked very closely with a few faces here, and all I can think about is gummy bears on a croissant. A few of you will get that. That's all I just think. Gummy bears, croissant, maybe there's something there. But I learned that, you know, every day, just like everything that we know, somebody is just learning for the first time. And sometimes in my training calls, or, you know, you get habitual in what's coming out of your mouth or what you're saying. And I had an opportunity not only to educate hopefully an MD, but a number of his staff. I happened to be on a call with a client about cerebral palsy, and I saw them all on camera. I'm like, you know, it wasn't the purpose of the call, but I had a very good discussion with a very well-versed MD in Italy that was receiving information. So just when, you know, I'm on this panel, I know every group in Facebook, there's yet another doctor out there that's never heard of lipedema. And, you know, again, you know, I like to plant seeds. You know, some seeds will bear, plant roots and grow and bear fruit, but you can't sit there and just put your focus on one tree and not prune the rest. So, and thank you. I learned, I kind of only met Brenda about a month ago. So I've kind of been checking out your posts and following. And again, there's always something for this old dog to learn too. So
I'm all about learning new stuff every day. And I learned so much even from many of you who have logged on and you are patients or you're on your lipedema journey, trying to find answers and help, and good for you. The one thing we always say is don't stop fighting and don't stop believing. There is hope and there is help for your condition. And so Carol Moody, whose Lympha Press just shipped out, says this, and it's going to help when you get your Lympha Press, but I want to pose some of this to Debbie. She says, I can't seem to get the fluid out of my mid and upper thighs. I guess there's too much fibrosis. I need suggestions on what else can I do. And also regarding vibration plates, I use mine most days, but what is the best speed for moving lymphatic fluid? Would you like to speak to that, Debbie?
Cheryl's laughing already because there's no such thing as a yes or no answer with Debbie ever. And Linda, there is no best speed, there is no best position, and there is no best time. The big problem with vibration machines, and I'm going to say it's a problem, is the science, the research way back when these things were, and Carol, I know you, honey, and you know that I ramble. I'll try to keep this brief, but a vibration machine is simply an environment. And within that environment, maybe you do exercises like squats and push-ups. Maybe we're doing stretches to move it from certain areas of your body. To address that question first, I would suggest, depending on your body type and your range of motion. So within the lipedema community, even if there was a best speed or position, some people can do it, some people can't, some people have different energy levels. So there's the variables like anything else. But I would suggest, Carol, if I think I know your body through previous conversations, things like squats, if range of motion allows you to physically get those body parts on the machine, sitting on it. Like, if any of you have ever seen me at an FDRS conference, the first time I went, everybody's like, I thought you just stood on it. And by the second year, I don't think anybody was standing on it. We were just laying all over it and moving lymph because nobody had their pups with them. So if you want to message me separately, Carol, I think we're friends on Facebook. Let me know what you're physically able to do, because that very often will dictate what you do on the machine. The durations, the settings, the speeds become a little bit more difficult, and Linda understands the language probably as good as I do, but the language of speed on a vibration machine is hertz, or movements per second. Within that, there's lots of different types of movement. Some go this way, some go this way, some do combinations. But if we look back at the science, certain machines have certain frequencies that they are capable of, and the vast majority of machines out there are about a third to a half of, let's say, from a speed perspective, what the medical devices would offer. Part of my goal this year and what I've transitioned to is instead of being a brand, I'm an independent consultant. And in the world of lipedema, just like vibration machines, there's probably more I can't prove, but I know is happening, than what I can prove by science. So one of my frustrations as a trainer, not everyone has the affordability or the budget to get what may be called a proper machine. I would prefer to call it a higher performing machine. I have women like my girl Kim, I wasn't going to call her out, but I might. I've been conducting an experiment and hope to build on this experiment. What is the best speed for lymph? Because for the 14 years I've been doing this, there hasn't been a study that's been conclusive. There hasn't been anything definitive. And I think Linda knows what I'm talking about. Lymph is one of those things that, everybody's lymph gets better, but we were studying, heart recovery, or we were studying performance. It's not something specifically that's really been looked at. And as the market has evolved, there's so much mismarketing out there, speeds, levels, programs. The best advice I can give specifically to the lymph in this community is, when you move, lymph moves. And any speed's going to do that to a certain degree. What I will say on most machines that move like this, which is what most people are using, an oscillating style, for this community, get it going a little faster, mid, higher speeds, whatever your machine is capable of, and reduce your foot distance. Reduce the amount of shake, especially if you're dealing with chronic pain, fatigue, those type of things. But use it more often. Whenever you feel sluggish, whenever you feel tired. Specific stuff, back to Carol's question, you know, regularity will be key. To whoever was speaking about that point, you take a big break, you regress, you reset sometimes, but one thing is never the cure. So just like exercise, if you've been doing the same positions, same speeds all the time, maybe just mix it up a bit. You know, maybe squat a little deeper, change your speed a little bit, keep the body confused and guessing. It's a very gray, very long answer, but there is, regardless of how these machines are marketed to you, there is no best machine. There is no best speed. That's just marketing to a degree.
Can you quickly give us your handles on social and websites so that people can connect with you?
Vibration for Fat Disorders. Because it's not just vibration machines, it's guns. It's evolved in the months since I come up with this. My current page is Vibration Guide. That's where you'll find me now.
Wonderful. Love it. Sounds great. Want to get to some other things that have come up over the month. One of the things that you had posted about recently, Cheryl, and maybe Linda, you can weigh in on this, mast cell activation syndrome.
Yes.
And then you followed that up with a post about the COVID vaccine, and do lipedema women need to be have special concerns when it comes to that? So I think this is a topic of interest for everybody.
Yeah. So one of the potential comorbidities with lipedema is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, one of the very common ones is mast cell activation syndrome. I tend to think that lipedema women tend to have mast cell activation syndrome, even though many probably aren't diagnosed, even if they don't have Ehlers-Danlos. But that's just kind of my impression. But I kind of think that's a very big possibility. But anyway, just kind of be aware of mast cell activation syndrome, which is more or less allergic reactions to food, environment. Some women even have reactions to vibration, sound, light, pressure. So, I mean, nearly anything can set you off. So one of the big issues with the COVID vaccine is, will it trigger mast cell activation syndrome and, you know, cause a rash, cause, you know, various allergic type reactions. So the Mast Cell Activation Society put out a post recently within the last 2 days. I can't remember when I shared it or posted, sorry. Too much going on.
That's all right. There's a lot going on.
But what they said in a nutshell is what it at least implied was they don't believe that there will be issues unless you are sensitive to propylene glycol. And so that one in particular. Some other things that I have learned about the Pfizer vaccine is there are no preservatives, and that is why it's kept at such a low temperature. So that's really great, because a lot of women that do have mast cell activation syndrome, they tend to be sensitive to various preservatives and additives and things. So that's really great. They do suggest there's something about, oh shoot, I can't, it was on the tip of my tongue. There is, I think it's an autoimmune disease, Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Oh, sure. Yes. They always make you note if you have that before you get a flu shot.
Okay. So the same type of thing. If you have that, then that might be an issue with the vaccine. But that seemed to be really exciting news that Yeah. They don't think that there's going to be an issue. They believe it's safe for immunosuppressed the population, immunosuppressed population. The only issue is they think it's possible that you may not build as many antibodies as someone who is not immunosuppressed. So
thank you so much. You know, you really should have a PhD after your name, Cheryl, because the way you are able to talk about these complex issues. Linda, before we move on from that topic, is there anything you wanted to add in about?
Yes, I do. That was fantastic, Cheryl. Wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Durkheim's patients also very often have mast cell activation. And of course, Durkheim's patients often have Ehlers-Danlos. And what it is, it's an increase in the histamine, which is the allergic release. And if you do have mast cell, you should avoid foods that are high histamine, like the fermented foods, which we normally tell you to have, and also the cruciferous vegetables. Those are high histamine. So that's something to look at. And then with the COVID, I've been studying and reading and all the immune, and we don't really know, do we? We just don't know yet. I'm going to be waiting till I see what really transpires with this, and I'm watching all the news and everything. It's great news to hear that there are no preservatives.
Yeah. Thank you for adding that. Debbie, jump in.
Because I love you all. I have been doing more research that I really wish I should have on this. I have a few clients that have been diagnosed as passing with COVID. So I've taken an obsession very early on with this. I have read out of Australia and the UK with current injections going on that they are extending allergies in general. If you were allergic to anything, food sensitivities is another big thing. If it were me as a mom, I would want to see that insert and know what those ingredients are, just like something I'm putting into my mouth. As a friend, I do not trust without doing my own research. And if the preservative is a piece of it, Cheryl, there's a little bit more too with why they have to storage. They're having all kinds of issues with it in Canada, the transport already, and we're cold here already. But I've read there's a little bit, they're not as forthcoming, but I've heard a lot more about if you have allergies or food sensitivities, maybe don't be the guinea pig would just be my, and I don't know who doesn't have some type of a sensitivity here, but that's just what I've read.
Okay, that's great advice. And this is a great jumping off point for me to say what I say every month, which is we are not dispensing any medical advice here. We expect everybody to do their own research and to listen to their own bodies and make their own judgments. This is a wonderful exercise in sharing what we're learning from some of the women that are forging the path in the area of lipedema, but we certainly are not telling you to do or not do anything. We can tell you what has worked tremendously for others, and we encourage you to find your way in this path. So I love that. Now, somebody mentioned Durkheim's and Lippy Butterfly on your Facebook page. You had actually posed a question wondering what maybe you could pose it, the connection between Durkheim's and lipedema?
Yes, we also have some friends that are in the community, Kim Wilson, for instance, and our new friend Hope, who have been diagnosed with Durkheim's. And especially with the new diagnosis, a lot of people are wondering what the connection is between Durkheim's and lipedema, and if those modalities for treating them are the same. Should they use vibration? Should they get a pump? Of course, we've talked a lot about food sensitivities, exercise and things like that, but what should they do, and are they doing the same thing that we're doing?
Patients who have Durkheim's very often have lipedema tissue as well. The difference between the Durkheim's and the lipedema is that, well, there's a few kinds of Durkheim's, but if it's the Durkheim's that's all over the body, there's pain in the fat, it's generalized pain. But the lipomas, as they manifest, are extremely painful, extremely. Men can have Durkheim's as well, and the men that I have treated have been very thin, and you can actually see the nodules sticking up. So they are in pain, but you still would do the same things, and you would want to do the deep work, laser, gua sha, working on those lipomas, whole body vibration. All the things that you're doing for lipedema are very, very good for Durkheim's as well, but they are in chronic pain. So I also work with my patients with aromatherapy, so you can include that as well to help with the pain and to help with the emotion that goes with it.
Well said. And speaking of emotion, I want to jump to a post, Pale Ginger Pear. I'm going to actually try to share my screen here. You can see it. Pale Ginger Pear, you created this. What precipitated this?
I actually saw a similar post on a celiac disease blog that I follow about gluten-free lifestyle. And it just really spoke to me. And I instantly had a bunch of things rattling off in my head about lipedema. And I know that most of my posts are just pictures because it's the photographer in me. But I had to get this out where it wasn't just in a caption that people don't look and just click a heart on the picture. I wanted the words more visible. So I had to make the battery image appear, of course, and just kind of go through the stuff that I'm tired of. I'm tired of the pain. I'm tired of being told just to lose weight. I'm tired of the cost and the amount of time just to stop progression. Like the self-care isn't really like getting rid of it. It's just stopping it from getting worse. And I'm tired of the amount of energy that it makes day-to-day tasks, the lack of medical support. It's mentally and emotionally draining, and it causes a ton of self-doubt. And I mean, even with this whole year and doing the surgeries and feeling better and getting energy back and knowing that it's not my fault and knowing that I'm right, because like my post where my top half is reducing and we haven't done anything to it, and it proves that the underlying issue for me was this lipedema and not what I was eating or what I was doing or not doing. So it's a refreshing, like I was right, I'm not crazy, but then at the same time, you still have the voices and you still second guess things. It's when it's become or has been your life for 20 some years or more, it's hard to just switch that off.
Yeah. I want to thank you for being so open and honest about those struggles, because I think many of the people in the audience are nodding their heads, and many of us around this table, you know what, I don't have lipedema, but 2020 alone, just give me that chart, because that's been sort of what this year has been like. Heather Zunker is nodding as well. And you know, Pattie, you start us out talking about knowing when to take a rest day and some of that emotional and mental struggle as well. And we just want you to know out there, we hear you, we feel you, and the best thing you can do is connect with people that will believe when you're tired of fighting. I love when you post those candid things, Pale Ginger Pear, because I can get right behind you and say, oh, but you're amazing, and I'm rooting for you all the way. Does anybody else want to weigh in on the mental challenges of this lipedema and maybe this time of year or 2020 in general?
I feel bad in a way to complain and say I've had rough days, because I know I've been extremely lucky to have the chance to have like the 3 surgeries this year. And so for me, in a way, 2020 has been great because I'm getting my life back. So I feel really, really bad when I like post an emotional day, but like,
you have to, that's part of progress. You have to, there's no good without bad. Well, there's no good without bad.
This time of year is really rough for me. I don't have my mom, and my birthday and the holidays just,
I know.
It's all in the same week, and it's like, it just makes me miss her, and I hate that she's not around to see what I got to do this year.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I just saw an angel on your shoulder, and it was your mom. And she is cheering you on too. And we are all, in fact, the people out there are saying in chat, we love your realness. And we thank you for sharing your heart with us, because you know what? Life has its highs and it has its lows. The best part of the journey is we get to take it together. And, you know, I had said to all of you, Let's think about any silver linings that this condition can offer. And for me, though I don't have the condition, I've had a very challenging year. My own mother is quite ill, and I go in and out of hospital visits with her, and, you know, it can be draining. And yet being with all of you and talking and sharing hope. And when I hear from someone that they got their Lympha Press and their legs have reduced and they have their life back, it's like, that's what it's all about. And the people that we encourage, we fight the good fight together. That's right, Carol Moody. Absolutely. Now, speaking of a good fight, before we run out of time, I want to get into something that is quite substantive. And we had hoped that Dr. Herbst would have been here to discuss this, but since we last got together, a very controversial international consensus paper was issued on the topic of lipedema. And it basically refuted many of the things that we know to be true and questioned the presence of edema in lipedema. It questioned that the weight loss having an effect on lipedema. I'm not going to be able to get into the depth of it, but the fact is it's worth fighting. And you're part of the fight, Linda Ann Kahn. So why don't you give us a snapshot of what this consensus paper is all about, and perhaps what we can do to support the worthy research that's being done, the advocacy for lipedema patients, and validating this very real disease. We at Lympha Press are in support of the lipedema community, and we know it's a very real condition. Don't you dare say it's not, but I'm editorializing. Go ahead, Linda.
There was an article that was published in a magazine in Europe with all the myths of lipedema. We were all outraged. This is before the consensus document. So there was a team of us who helped Dr. Herbst. She wrote up a reply. We helped her to tweak it and all the research, the references, and then it was published. It was a letter to the editor, which was then published. The author then wrote back a pretty nasty reply. And then all of a sudden, we got a call from Valeria from Lipedema, Italy, to say that this now was being posed as a European consensus document. And it's that there's no edema in lipedema. Therefore, there's MLD doesn't work. Therefore, liposuction doesn't work. You have to only do bariatric surgery. It's a totally progressive, it's painful for everybody. And there were a lot of other myths. So Dr. Herbst and Valeria from the Italy lipedema community spearheaded the most amazing conference, which I participated in. Dr. Lindy was there as well, Jamie Schwartz. It was 2 Sundays ago. And it was, Dr. Herbst went over every single myth and dispersed them. And then each of us spoke. We had one slide that we could do. Mine was on pain. And we each spoke to address all of these issues. UK lipedema was there. She actually said she did not see the final document and her name was on it. She has demanded that they remove her name. And that's Shari Fetzer, who's the most amazing woman, and she's the head of UK lipedema. There is now going to be a new international consensus, which is what Dr. Herbst proposed, and we're all for it. And what she said in her closing speech was what we were all thinking. This paper has united us from all over the world, all the top people in the lipedema communities more than ever before. So please support us and support lipedema, because these myths are not true. And if anyone wants to get hold of the document, I'm happy to help you to get that through Brenda.
Rallying together, I like the way you said that, and I really felt this. You know, it was sort of like we took a hit, and it's going to only cause us to rise up together. Does anybody else want to speak to this kind of movement that's ending 2020?
You know what? There's no such thing as bad press. You know, that's what that phrase sometimes, you know, has a meaning. So it brought awareness, however it got it there. So I'm happy for that.
Yeah.
I would say for this year, I don't know if you guys are aware, but I don't have lipedema. I love supporting you, and I wish I could take half my clients' pain and just give you guys a day or two off from it and bear that burden. It's sad in Canada. We are locked down. There's no family Christmases. There's no dinners. There's tickets if you have friends at your house. So it's, you know, if anything, I'm thankful for the technology that we now kind of had to get versed in, you know, but whether it's school, you know, whether we wanted to use this technology or not, I think we're all glad that we've gotten better at it this year. It's a very powerful form of communication. Look at what you've built this into, Brenda. So, you know, I'm going to focus on, hopefully 2020 will blow into those communication paths are better. And when life is free again, we're just more effective in communicating the right information.
I love that. Well said. Our friend Curvy Girl Beth is out there, and she said,
"Hi, Beth."
Hey, Beth. We love her. You're awesome. Talk about someone who's so real and out there with her struggles and her triumphs, and she inspires us all with her inner and outer beauty. She says 2020 has been a great year for bringing awareness and so many of us together worldwide. So true. And one of the great people at bringing people together is my friend Nita Cluis, who just put in chat the link so that you can watch that YouTube video we just talked about. Thank you so much for doing that, Nita. We appreciate it. We are heading into the last 10 minutes or so of our last Lipedema Patient Roundtable of the year. And so I want to go back to some things that really touched my heart that I noticed. So this is sort of like consolidating all of your Facebook and Instagram posts from the last month, but you wrote a blog post, Pattie Cornute, One Body, One Life. What a great, inspiring post. Why don't you give us a capsule of what that was all about?
It was actually a repost from something I had done, I think like in 2015. And I had seen a friend of mine posting this amazing picture. They did all these car shows. They have all these really cool old antique cars, and they go to these shows, and she's a phenomenal photographer, and she had taken this picture, and I was just kind of moved to think that, you know, if we looked at how many vehicles we get in a lifetime, and we look at the amount of care we put into those vehicles, and we keep them for such a short amount of time, when you look at it in the span of a lifetime, if we only got one vehicle, what would we choose? You know, fast, something to keep us going the whole span. Look at the amount of effort we put into our vehicles. Remember how important it is to put that effort into our self-care, and not just for people with lipedema, but just in general, a body. My sister is currently going through some really physical pain and issues that she's trying to figure out what they are. And I just think, you know, you just never know. You don't know what's coming. You don't know. A healthy body can be in pain one day and work through it. You know, it's the self-care is so important, and it does get overwhelming, and it does become a lot emotionally to stay invested, but it's really worth it.
That's so well said. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I encourage you to go and visit lipedemafitness.com, correct?
That's the webpage. Yep.
That's the webpage. You can find it there. You can certainly find this. It was a very popular post. It was excellent. Marcia Witt says to all of us, I just learned about lipedema 3 months ago. She is ending 2020 inspired by us and continued education, which reminded me of a post that got 99 comments on your Facebook page, Cheryl. And it was, how do you explain lipedema? So, I mean, I'm asking you all to pare it down, but how do you explain lipedema? Cheryl?
What I usually say is that I try to explain the word lipedema. So the lip means fat, and edema is holding water, holding liquid. So it's that our fat is holding liquid.
I tell them that it's a loose connective tissue disease, specifically that we're leaky and that our fat cells don't act like normal fat cells. And I do the same thing that Cheryl does, where I break it down and I'm like, lipid meaning fat and edema meaning fluid, and it holds on to fluid. But we also have fluid in our intercellular matrix and our interstitial tissue, which is why we tend to swell up. So our bodies just don't quite function normally, which is why we also oftentimes end up with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and other comorbidities. And so that usually, and then I always say, do you ever see those women with really big thighs, but then the rest of them's kind of tiny, or they have these cankles where it looks like their ankles don't end and it kind of goes, either one of those are lipedema. And they go, oh, I know people like that. I'm like, I know you do. I mean, apparently 11 of us out of every 100 have it, so, or whatever.
Linda, is there anything you want to say about that? And then we'll go right to you, Pale Ginger Pear.
Right, well, we also need to, everything you said is all absolutely fantastic, but there also is the fibrosis. Because I have found that every single lipedema patient has fibrosis, some more than others. So I would add that.
Very good. Thank you for adding that. That's excellent. And you were nodding, Angelique. And Ginger Pear, jump in.
Yeah, I always describe it as it's an inflammatory reaction that causes the fat cells to hold in the extra lymph fluid the body makes. And then I say that the later stages, like myself, is like when the fat cells become a sponge that's, you know, we've all seen the sponge that has the puddle still around it where it can't hold anymore. That's where the lipolipedema kicks in, where the fat cells have absorbed what they can, and then the extra fluid causes the lymphedema in the legs.
Well said. Man, see, I've got the rock stars of lipedema here on the screen tonight. I love it. Angelique, you did a post. I just want to mention this before we end up closing out with our inspiring words for everybody at home. So be ready for that. Angelique, you did a post and I could almost see hand on hip. It was because I don't feel like it. Now, what was that all about?
And my hand was definitely on my hip. I was doing a couple of claps. I did not feel like continuing on with my sensitivities for the end of the year. I didn't feel like eliminating cheese. Like, I'm tired of it. I didn't feel like not having dairy. But that week that I made that post, I was still meeting with my nutritionist, and I said, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to food prep. And by this time, it's become my habit to not include those sensitivities into my diet. So this week I ended up food prepping, and it was some spinach and chicken and things like that, and it still didn't have the sensitivities in there. Linda and Kahn also gave me the idea of looking outside of that spectrum of, you know, just what you're used to seeing at the grocery store. And my sister, who is viewing us tonight, Crystal, had some chickpea pasta. It gave me the idea to go ahead and make a version of Hamburger Helper that made me feel like I was getting what I'm wanting and craving, and at the same time still eliminating my food sensitivity, so that I don't feel like it. Still kind of turned into I feel like it because I have to do it anyway, and it's my habit now.
I love it. Perfect. And I just love that hand on the hip. We want to note that Angelina Grist is out there. It's her first time joining us for the roundtable, and she's grateful for the hope and guidance and inspiration that you are all providing, which is that's humbling and makes us just so happy, gives us goosebumps too. And Mariah Kennemer also is saying that she loves being a part of this community. It's everything. We welcome you, Angelina and Mariah. Well said. Also, Nita noted the Lipedema Project, which is a wonderful resource that many of us are very familiar with. Great resources for lipedema. Okay, last words of inspiration. Go, Siouxsie.
The main thing that I would say is you're beautiful, actually, just as you are, and your body doesn't define you. And this has been the year of really coming to terms with that. And you're surrounded by so many awesome, kick-ass women. This is a small piece of our group, and I don't know how I could navigate this. Cara, you made me cry because thank you for sharing your journey with us. And you guys inspire us. And then somebody earlier said that they don't think they could be that brave to do what we do, but we're you. we're just you maybe a little bit later. So yeah, we'll see you.
Love. Perfect. I almost don't even want to rush this because this is so beautiful. Do you feel it? I feel it. So, Angelique, inspiring words, brief.
Give yourself a break. It's been a really difficult year. And those of us that have lipedema, those of us that have Durkheim, we're constantly flooding ourselves with information. We've got hours worth of modalities to work throughout the day. We're pumping and we're doing everything. Give yourself a break. If you don't meet 100% this week, if you don't meet 80%, give yourself a break. You've done a lot this year. It is okay.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Pattie Cornute.
I'm going to kind of tag on to that. I like to say it's all or something. You always hear people like trying to motivate you by saying it's all or nothing. No, it's not. Every little bit, 10 minutes of dancing or 10 minutes of meditation or whatever. It doesn't have to be the full big picture of this thing you want to do. Every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps. Linda Ann Kahn.
Well, I just want to say that 2020 has been a very trying year for so many people, for everybody. But 2020 vision is what we want, right? So if we take this 2020 and we go forward into 2021 with 2020 vision and move forward and look forward and be with the present moment and love yourself and love your body and every day do some form of self-care, we can embrace 2021 no matter what's going on outside.
Drop the mic. That's awesome. Cheryl Scoledge.
Remove your food sensitivities, do your self-care, and you can take control of your lipedema.
Debby Pelletier.
Be kind. There's a lot of people that can't afford Christmas presents for their kids. And there's a lot of people that are wondering where that job is coming from. You know, this is a community that's used to being stepped on and kicked around. And sometimes I don't think we realize how strong we are until others around us are suffering. And I bet a lot of you, the strength that you barely have, to Pattie's point, you know, do as much as you can or as little as you can, but you know, you're still giving 70 to 80% of your time to other people. And that's what's so cool about this freaking community, right? So how do you move forward? You know, maybe I have a bad day, but hearing that Siouxsie had a good one or Cheryl took a good poop this morning, it makes it all worthwhile, right?
Yeah, and, you know, we're quite candid here, as you can tell.
Sorry, I know. I didn't say. I usually would have said 4-letter words, but I'm trying to be less Debbie on these calls.
And we are completely out of time, and I don't want to do anything except to say, Pale Ginger Pear, we love you. We love being on this journey with you, and all of you at home, we love you. We love being on this journey with you too. And you ladies have been the silver lining in my year. Lympha Press loves people with lipedema, and we are honored to serve you, and we are honored to bring this platform. And here's to more fun in 2021, right?
Yay. There you go.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.